One of the things that feels like it happened a decade ago, but really only a few years ago, was Jasper and working with them on their email nurture follow-up sequence automations to engage with leads that were opting in, free trials, to converting them to paid subscribers on any number of plans. And this did, in tandem with all of the other things Jasper had going on in the early days, was create a sort of flywheel from this content that was automated when people would opt in to the free trial or get started with Jasper on whatever the call to action was at that time. The important thing that I learned from going through that process and building out a 30 plus part follow-up sequence to engage with those leads specifically was the power of starting with human generated content first, and then using AI to augment and create all of the complementary content to that drives traffic and more eyeballs to that human-driven content. And the way that Jasper did this, which is one of the reasons that I believe that they were successful at the beginning, was because a lot of their content stemmed from highlighting experts in a particular industry or niche that were already successful doing something in their business, and then they used Jasper to accelerate and augment and enhance what they were already doing. And it made them that much better at producing better outcomes, better results, doing that faster. And you could see this, and I don't know how many of these are still up, they may have been taken down, but on Jasper's early blog days, you would see experts like Sean Vossler being interviewed and how he was using Jasper and giving very specific directions and instruction around how to implement Jasper in the way that Sean, for example, was doing it. And that was just one of a number of different experts. Like Rachel Peterson, for example, was another one who had developed some really great processes around using Jasper. And I'm using Jasper as an example because that's what we had to use back then. This was obviously Jasper was using OpenAI. I mean, they currently use a number of other tools in their tech stack, but that was the gateway into using a lot of this AI stuff. And so people like Sean Vossler, people like Rachel Peterson, Molly Mahoney, and all these other experts inside of the Jasper community at that time were being very helpful. And if you're running a B2B SaaS company like Jasper was, then you have the tool, but if you're not creating content that's generated from users about how to use that tool most effectively, there is a lot of examples and demonstrations and tutorials that can be made as a byproduct of any number of those demonstrations. And what that did was basically set up through this whole process, start to finish, was one, getting these people to be okay and willing to come on and share and spend their time teaching others how to do a process that they do and probably already teach. Little secret when you're talking about beginning outreach for this, if you run a SaaS business or some other membership or otherwise, the people that are already doing this type of stuff from a content perspective, that already teach it, that are already experts in a certain subject, depending on who they are, generally isn't that difficult to get a hold of and get them to agree to share or collaborate or co-create some sort of content with you, especially if they already have an existing like referral program, they do affiliates, or you can make them an affiliate of your tool, and in some cases even a second tier affiliate, depending on what your business model is, how your program is structured. But these, let's just call them creators or influencers or thought leaders that are already established, getting webinars set up with them, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, whether it's 2 hours, whether it's a 4-hour workshop, getting those on the schedule, on the books, on the calendar on a regular basis. In Jasper's case, it was weekly. and booking those times on a calendar that was a generally accessible time for people in your audience to join live, and then also being able to share the recordings through platforms like YouTube, sending out weekly emails, letting people know about the event, and then a simple follow-up reminder email for those that have already registered to join the event, or maybe even an email in some cases that those that registered but did not join the event. Reminding them about it, having them register, and then you're building a segmented list inside of that email follow-up nurture sequence that is starting to segment the different people in your audience that are actually opting in to joining that webinar experience. And if you have, whether you have 100 customers or you have an audience of 100,000 people, setting up that cadence and being consistent with that cadence is really important, I believe, to why it was able to build that momentum with Jasper and keep highlighting all the crazy cool use cases that people were literally just discovering with what AI could do for their business. And that was early days from my perspective anyways, 2021 timeframe. You see the same model with a lot of content-based companies, and the big B2B SaaS companies that are doing this well follow a similar approach. It's content that's driven by users or experts in their community. Maybe they're already internal and they're teaching it, but it's a regular, consistent piece of content that you're doing, let's say in the form of a webinar. Once that piece of content is done, you want to send out a replay to it. And that's as simple. And if you're using Zoom or something like that for the webinar, you just download the Zoom replay. I like to export mine into Descript, but you could just download that Zoom replay. Now you can run it through a ChatGPT or Claude or whatever other large language model you're using, and break down, turn that interview, turn that webinar into a blog, turn that blog into different pieces of social content, run that webinar through a tool like Opus, and create a bunch of video clips from it. And of course, there's ways to automate a lot of this now too, even more so than we were doing back then. But now that content that you did and filmed and spent time on once can be created and repurposed in so many different ways. And if you do this consistently and bring actual value to your audience through the contents on those webinars, and have something that you can direct people to, like signing up for a free demo or actually using the tool or booking a call with your sales team or opening up a conversation with you via chat or email. There's a lot of ways that these simple webinars and doing them in a series of events can continue to stack and compound with the value that they are creating amongst your audience. Because not everyone's ready to buy or subscribe right now. That's just a fact. A very small percentage of people are actually ready to buy or subscribe to whatever you want to do at any given point. And what you're creating here, one, with this content, covers a number of different bases. One, it covers your existing customers because they have to learn how to use whatever you're selling more effectively, especially in the case of a SaaS product in B2B. Teaches people how to use your product effectively. And then it shows people how other people are using it too, so they can make their own connections and see how it could help them with their own way by seeing someone else's application of a certain tool. Then, while people that already are using your tools know how to use your tools better, this also gives you an ability to educate and to even entertain people that are just not quite ready to buy, but maybe they want to learn more from you. Maybe they want to just check your stuff out. Maybe they're just out shopping, window shopping, whatever. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I, for one, don't like being hit over the head and sold to every single time I'm online by every single person I follow. It's nice to get content from people that I follow that is actually educational, that puts a different perspective on a topic that I might have considered before, or am considering, or thinking about, or that I didn't even know was a thing, and now I'm learning more about it. And again, the consistency with all this stuff is critical, because the reason I believe this is so helpful in fueling Jasper's content approach at the beginning with the content and then the email and then distributing that on the social channels like YouTube, was that it was happening every week at that time, and it was compounding the more and more that these events were happening. And again, it's a very simple process, start to finish, but actually effectively executing it takes actions and takes things to get executed. And it's what AI can help you do. It's what people can help you do that build these content engines. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, my biggest takeaway and learning experience from working with Jasper and building out those emails and having a front row seat to like how that whole machine was being operated and being a part of that operation to a degree. There was obviously marketing ad spend that was going into play there. They were one of the first tools to market. There was a lot of attention on Jasper at that particular time. Then it was Jarvis, and before that it was Conversion AI. And there was a number of other factors in play beyond just creating content that was factoring into eyeballs even getting onto them. And this is not just the magic bullet solution. If you don't have, there's other things that would certainly be helpful in your business to have to make this content most effective. But again, even if you have a really small audience, even if it's just 1 hour a week that you're doing some sort of content or workshop or webinar that people can join and interact and engage with, that over time, I've found anyways from my experience to be a good way to, one, keep myself on a consistent schedule with creating and producing content, but also building just relationships with people in my audience that are at any given stage of the buyer or customer journey. It's a nice way to connect with people in a world where a lot of people feel disconnected and isolated and struggle to put these dots together with how to even make AI work for them in the first place, or how I see all these other people having success doing a certain thing. How can I have that work for me? People at the end of the day right now are craving human connection, and I don't think that's ever going away. And whether it's online or in person, doing consistent events of some way, shape, or form are a great way to keep you top of mind and keep you building those relationships over the long haul. As for me anyways, I much more now than several years ago, and looking at how I'm spending my time in my business and who I'm building relationships with, is I'm viewing this as a long-term game and trying to invest my time and the relationship that I'm building for stuff that's not just going to happen once in the next week and then it's done with it, but rather, even like the video that you're watching right now, something that can help others learn, solve, and on their own journey with implementing AI. But not just AI in my case, because there's so many other things that interest me that aren't AI related, like drumming, like music, which of course there's AI that can do some stuff like that, but there's so much more to music than just putting a prompt into Suno, which is still fun to do. But I'm not going anywhere. God willing, I don't die tomorrow, which could happen. And there's nothing I can do about that if it does happen. Obviously, I can do things to minimize my risk of dying, which we all should probably be doing more of. But at the end of the day, any one of us could die. We could drop dead tomorrow. It's the Latin, I think it's Latin, whatever, memento mori. Remember, tomorrow you might die. It's a reminder to live your life today. And how do we go from talking to Jasper to talking about philosophy? All these AI tools and advancements are great, but if it doesn't come back down to us living a life where we're actually happy and satisfied and doing stuff that we want to do with the people that we want to do it with, then what's the point? And I think I even lose sight of that sometimes when I see all these advancements and all these other people in the space that are maybe getting a whole lot more attention than our meager little YouTube channel with little over 5,000 subscribers. But then I remember that before I even started creating content with Jasper, I had 0 subscribers, and it was hard enough for me to even get one video on YouTube, much less create content for myself, which is why I wrote a book as one of the first big pieces of content with Jasper that kind of started the whole what is today of Gen AI University. It came from a point of frustration and isolation and being burnt out to now, even if it's a little over 5,000 subscribers. I appreciate every one of the subscribers that are on our channel, and how I've been able to help curate other experts and insights from people in our community through the Scale with AI Summit, through our workshops, through the events that we host, through the hackathons that we coordinate. There's a lot of work that we can continue to do, and there's so much opportunity for growth just on YouTube, much less all the other social media channels. But like, what's the point in just getting stuck in the comparison machine of trying to pin myself, or if you're in this position right now and you're feeling like everyone else is going faster or farther than you and you want to get ahead faster, I'm right there with you. And then I also think to myself is like, what can I be grateful for today? Because no one's guaranteed tomorrow. We have what is in front of us right now, and we have the resources available to us today with being online and with all these AI tools to be able to do and create almost anything that we can think of and imagine. It's just a matter of knowing how to do what you want to do with the right tools, with the right people, with the right know-how and the right connections. And of course, that's what we strive to help people in our community do. It's what we're always learning and engaging and implementing new AI tools and experiments. And if I could leave anybody with anything at the end of this video, is if you know that you need to be creating more content for your business, if you're struggling to get started with that content that you know that you should be creating more of, and if you're struggling to just get started with it or operate it once you do get started and then it just goes to the wayside, is to just think back to what's the most simplest form of what I could be doing as an outcome that would end up creating this content every week that would be fun to do or be easy to do, but that you know that people would also get value from, in terms of, is it helpful or is it useful? If you can pinpoint that one thing and you can do that one time a week, and you have a Zoom account, and I would say probably Descript would be really helpful here too. Just put it on the calendar, block off the time, invite some people that you think would be interested in that event, and have them register for your Zoom, do your thing for an hour, and then after that, create a thumbnail for the content, create a title for the content, and post it on YouTube. Just get started and do it consistently. That's the biggest thing here, is be consistent with it. You'll learn from the experience. And going back to how the whole process worked with Jasper, from the content to the emails to the follow-up sending of the replays, it's a very simple system, but it has to be operated, and you need a human managing it at some way, shape, or form. So baby steps first, build on that as you continue with the consistency, and then just get things into action, get things started, and use the tools available to not only create the content yourself and creating better content by optimizing every single week that you're creating the content, but then how can you continue to get better on it and improve? And you do that for 90 days. I don't know how you wouldn't feel more confident and feel more comfortable and feel more capable of doing this more often, even just as consistency. Maybe you want to bump the frequency up, but also how those new connections are informing the content that you're going to create. I think there's a lot of value that will come from it, but at the end of the day, it's all about taking those ideas in our heads, putting them in action, and taking that action and making a great impact with it. So I hope that you make some great progress moving forward and build on some momentum this year as you start to create more content. And make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment on our video here and on YouTube to let us know what you like about our content, what you'd like to see more of, or just to say, hey, we love seeing you guys' likes and comments. And join our community at genaiuniversity.com if you want more from myself and our community. But other than that, keep calm and AI on, and I will see you guys on the other side. Cheers, y'all.